This video will show you a powerful tool for mapping out your goals so that you really accomplish what you want. I'm going to show you firsthand how you can do it so that you can really get what you want in life. Now, this involves a technique that has to do with mapping out our goals and developing a bit of a timeline and developing a bit of intention so that we know as we go forward in what we call our future, we are able to see those kind of things in our life. So the first thing I want to say is that a deadline is very important when it comes to goals. Now, at the fundamental base level, something I talk a lot about on this channel is that the only moment that really exists is this moment right now. That what we can do is take present action, so take action completely focused in the present moment, but in general, having some type of timeline and having some type of pressure on us is what is necessary for us to really take action and to know that we can move towards what we want to accomplish in our life. Now, this is something that I think has been proven many, many times over the last hundreds of years, probably for even longer than that. But if you read the book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, which I think I have it somewhere else, and there are a lot of research as well, it shows that people that make goals years later have accomplished much more than people that don't make goals at all. So this is just to let you know that goals are important. Goals are something that can really change your life if you start to make them. And what we can begin to do is know that as we give ourselves some type of mental frame, some type of intention, some type of goal that we map out, it gives us a direction that we can move into, and it allows us to really get pulled towards that direction. Now, me, for example, I used to be somebody that procrastinated a lot. I was aware anytime I had a school project back in school, I would get it all done. I would always do it. I would always get what I needed done, but I would do it the last minute, and I would be the night before studying very hard or be doing whatever project it was. And that's why I've had to kind of change the way I look at this process by giving myself my own mental deadline before that of when it's actually due and when there's actually something I need to get done. And all you got to do is realize that if you frame it in such a way, if you think about it in such a way, you will get things done much faster. So internal pressure is very important. Now let me get into the bulk of this video, the part that I think will add a whole ton of value to you guys. It's understanding how we can use goals when it comes to mapping it out on a piece of paper. Now what you can do is you can set long-term goals and short-term goals of having a mental image or a picture in your mind of what you want to accomplish. You could also call this an outcome. That's something that Tony Robbins talks about a lot. And what you do is you have the outcome and you write down, so it's almost it can also be like a journal. I know recently we did a video on the channel about journaling. What you could do is you could have a certain month. So say right now it's November. What we could do is we could have November, December, January, February, March. You could have all of those months, and what you can do is have certain goals each month of what you want to accomplish and what you're going to do, the outcomes of what you're going to do, but also the process of what you will be doing in those months so that you kind of have a mental frame of what you want to create. Now, here's the power of this whole video. What you want to do is reverse engineer what you want to create in your life. So for example, if you're oh, I want to own my own art gallery, right? That's something that maybe some people want to do. What you do is you say, okay, what is the time frame for when I can accomplish it? And what you have to do is you have to be somewhat honest to yourself, but you can also push the frame a little bit. You can push your mind into what is possible. So you could say, do I believe that I could own an art gallery in 3 years? No. Maybe that, I'm just saying, maybe you're honoring your belief system. Then you could say, well, do I believe that I can own my own art gallery in 4 years? Maybe. Do I believe I can own my own art gallery in 5 years? Absolutely. That's something I think I can definitely do. That's what it'll take, is it's going to take about 5 years. And then what you could do is you can work on yourself is, could you break through limiting beliefs? Could you lessen that time of what it'll take? Whatever it is. And it could be a lot shorter. I'm just giving you an example. It could be a year, whatever it is. But that's what you ask yourself so that you kind of do this in alignment with part of your belief system. Because if you're I'm going to manifest and create an art gallery in the next 3 weeks, That's something I'm sure can be done at a certain level. And if you read books by like Grant Cardone, which is like 10x rule, then you'll see that you can also 10x your goals. So there's ways and techniques of doing it, but I'm just using this as a general meta frame for us to understand. So what you could do is you could say, okay, it would take me about 5 years to open up my first art gallery. Now what you can do is a number of things. You could find people that have opened up their own art gallery. You can go into their actual art galleries and you can talk to them and see what steps they had to take, how did they get started, what have they been doing, how did they start out. And as you ask those questions, you can model what they've done. It's like a Tony Robbins type thing. Model exactly what they've done to get a similar result. So what you could do is you could say, what did you do in the first year? What did you do in the second year? What did you do in the third year? How long did it take you? And you can start to see what that is so that it gives you some type of basis to go off of. Then what you do is you map out on a piece of paper the next 5 years, maybe year 1, year 2, year 3, 4, 5. And what you do is you reverse engineer and see what actions you'll have to take, what you'll have to accomplish in each individual year leading up to being able to open up your own art gallery. Now, what you do is you do that and you write down the outcomes and the things you'll have to accomplish. So maybe it's that you have to first off start with where you are. Maybe the first thing you have to do is you have to start posting on social media more. You have to start selling online. You have to start putting yourself out there and offering to do free work for celebrities or people that are social media influencers. Whatever it is, you start doing things like that. You start reaching out to people. Then the second year, you're going to focus more on creating some type of lease. You lease something from somebody else, like a little space in some type of art gallery that already exists. And you start putting your stuff in there. And you have this mental map in your mind that you're going to do something like that. Then the third year, you're going to decide you're going to apprentice for somebody that has their own art gallery. And you're going to do some work with them and you're going to collab with them somehow. Or then you're going to, fourth year, you're going to actually launch your first, some type of series or something like that. You see what I mean? This is just an analogy. I'm just kind of pulling out of my, just out of thin air here. Those are the kind of ideas that you can use. And then what you do is you break those 5 years down and then you focus on what you have to do this year. So then you map it out January, February, March, April, May, all the way to the end of the year, or whatever part of the year it's in right now. And then you do the same thing. Well, that stuff that I said I wanted to do in this 1 year, what do I have to accomplish in each individual month? And then you write that down on a piece of paper. Well, maybe I'm going to have to, first month I'm going to have to start studying people that have already done it. I'm going to find out what are the core things that people say. I'm going to go into the actual art galleries that already exist and I'm going to interview them. I'm going to record it if they let me. I'm going to remember what it is. I'm going to read the books of people that have done it before. I'm going to be inspired every single day. I'm going to create art every single day. Whatever it is, you find out what that is and you do it and you then block it into those months. But then what you do is you do it per month. So then you say maybe per week what you have to do. So you break it down into weeks. So maybe January, the first month of whenever this is, then you decide I need to do this the first week, this the second week, this the third week, this the fourth week to get that whole month goal of whatever you have. So do you see what I mean? What you do is you map it out on a piece of paper and you break that down into each individual frame and you can keep doing that over and over again. If you do this process and if you apply it, you will begin to see results because it gives you a way to take action and it gives you a direction to move in. And it is something that is just so powerful. It's something I've done. I've reverse engineered the way and the intentions I have over the next 5 years to become a world-class speaker, to be somebody that's able to move audiences, to be somebody that's able to create amazing programs that transforms people's lives, to be somebody, I think about the kind of house that I want to live in. I want to live in like a 3,000 or 4,000 square foot house with amazing architecture, very modern type looking. I want to be able to, travel whenever I feel like. I want to be able to live in different parts of the world. These are different aspects of how I view it and I reverse engineer it. What will I have to do? What will I have to accomplish? And how much value will I have to give to other people to get my goals done? So you see, I kind of switch it around a couple different ways. But that's the way that I view it. I think that we have the ability to map it out and that this also links into something with the law of attraction that is called segment intending. When we have a certain basis or we have certain ideas of what direction to move towards, what that does is it primes our brain for certain type of experiences. It primes our brain to put ourselves into certain states, to get certain things done. And that mapping, that future pacing, that the way we think about it can absolutely affect the kind of results that we get. And especially as we infuse action into it, it is just so powerful. Now, another thing that I've done, because I realize how powerful the subconscious mind is in reprogramming our life, what it has to do is changing how we think, how we act, and how we feel. So what I've done is created a very powerful guided MP3 meditation. It's also considered a hypnosis that you can listen to before you go to bed every single day. You can listen to it halfway through your day whenever you want. Listen to it for at least 21 days to a month, and you'll find that things really begin to change in your life, because what you're doing is you're changing your self-image from the inside out.
This video, I'm going to show you the 3-step process to shifting your identity, which is controlling your life situations, and how that will then transform your life. Now in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the 3-step process, 1, 2, 3, to be a better version of you. Now, a better version of you implies that you're not already whole and complete already, but this has to do with understanding our identity, our self-image, who we think we are, and how who we think we are, the way that we see ourselves, is then projected out based on our vibration, which our vibration is a combination, I like how that rhymes, of how we think, feel, and act. Think, feel, and act. That is going to determine, and that especially in regards to how we see ourselves, is projected out to other people. Other people pick up on those cues and then respond to that energy we are putting out. So if we are in a position of believing that things always happen to us, that people are always mean to us, we think, feel, and act that way. Our body language maybe even is shown a certain way to where we are depicting that subconsciously. Other people pick up on that energy and then respond to us depending on that. So if you want to change the way other people perceive of you, you must first off change your self-image. Part of that could be understanding the identity, or a summary of that would be the identity and the way that you see yourself, because that is the way people are responding to you. And everything in your life is a reflection of the way you see yourself. If you see yourself as able to only make $50,000 a year, I use this analogy a lot, then you are going to be thinking equal to making $50,000 a year. You're going to feel like you deserve only $50,000 a year, and your actions will also link up with maybe $50,000 a year. You will accept a job that pays $50,000 a year. Even if you had a sales commission job and you believed and you thought, I'm going to make $100,000 this year, what would happen is if you didn't change your self-image, you would somehow sabotage yourself or find yourself coming up to blocks that keep you from attaining that. Now, the reason being is our self-image is like a cybernetic mechanism. I have a thermometer on that wall right over there, set to 76 degrees. It looks just like this. And anything that happens, the door opens, it heats up, it cools down, the AC kicks on because the thermometer is a cybernetic mechanism. Your body, your self-image is a cybernetic mechanism. The reason many people are trying to attract things, they say, I want to make $100,000 a year, but their self-image says I can only make $50,000 a year. That's why it doesn't happen, because the identity, the self-image, the ego will do everything it can to remain consistent to the way that you define yourself. Say it one more time. Your ego will do everything within its power to remain consistent to the way that you define yourself. Now, these filters sometimes come off. You ever see someone that's a very shy person, but then they drink alcohol and now all of a sudden they're really loud? That filter went off. The filter of the identity of them saying, I am a shy person, I am quiet, I don't speak out of turn. That goes away, and then they're more able to express themselves. Now, I'm not claiming that alcohol is the way out. Definitely is not. But what I'm saying is these filters are interchangeable. How we think, feel, and act will change depending on how we feel and the kind of state that we're in. But in this video, I'm going to show you 3 steps to becoming more aware of this. Because when you change these 3 steps, your whole entire life will begin to change. You see, one of the reasons, the epiphany I had the other day was I was making a podcast episode, and it was on self-image, understanding that when we change our self-image, we then transform our life. And I had this epiphany. The epiphany was most people that go through what is called the spiritual awakening have such a profound change in their life because they, at the core, are becoming aware of their old ego, their old identity. And by becoming aware of it, it changes their self-image. Now, when you change your self-image, you change your life. Instead of seeing yourself as a 3D physical human, that's all that I am, I'm a human having a human experience, spiritual awakening says I'm a spiritual being having a temporary human experience. It changes the identity, and therefore everything on the outside begins to change according to that. So that's why the self-image is the key to changing your entire life. And in this video, I'm going to share that with you. Now, the first step has to do with simply awareness and letting go. Now, the reason this is 90% of people, almost 100% of people, aren't even aware of their self-image. If you ask them, maybe they can come up with something, but people are not aware of their vision for who they are. They're not aware of the way they see themselves. And they're not aware of the story they've been telling themselves about who they are. You see, we go through life. We have these little experiences. Something happens. Somebody calls you a name. Your parents treat you a certain way. We then internalize those meanings and think that this is who I am. I'm not worthy because this happened. Or this person, I was embarrassed in front of class. I'm an awkward person. We, in the past, gave situations meaning that then were kept on autopilot, running themselves over and over and over again, and we haven't become aware of it, so therefore we think, feel, and act consistent over and over and over again, depending on that level of identity and the meanings we gave things in the past. So even if somebody told you, maybe you say, well, I didn't give it that meaning, my dad gave me that meaning, or my mom gave me that meaning, or this person, this ex-boyfriend or girlfriend gave me that meaning. You had to agree to it at a certain point. And when you agreed to it, you internalized it. Now, if you haven't seen or listened to that podcast episode yet, I'm going to go and link it in the top of the description box below. It's one of the most powerful, probably pieces of content I've made. I really get into it. It's about 40 minutes long. You can listen to it while you're at the gym. You can listen to it while you're driving, whenever you want. But if you haven't subscribed to the podcast yet already, I do new episodes every Tuesday and Friday. And they're all specific podcast episodes. So check that out if you haven't already. And in general, what I am mentioning is the power of understanding these agreements we've made in the past about who we are. Now, I had a certain identity. Like when I look to my own life, everything in my life that is transformed has been because I've had an identity shift. An identity shift. It's this process that I call identity shifting. Understanding how we shift our identity from one way, seeing ourselves in one way, and then seeing it in a different way. So one way, we have a certain story we tell ourselves about who we are. I'm able to make $50,000 a year. Then you say, oh, I want to make $100,000 a year. But what we must first off do is become aware of the story that we're telling ourselves that is keeping our reality on autopilot. And then once we become aware of it, what we can eventually do is observe it and see that it is a false sense of identity. It's an illusion. It's an illusion. It's something that we internalize, but it doesn't necessarily have to be true. All of these stories and beliefs that we tell ourselves, we're going to use for a certain period of time, but eventually we give them all away because we are actually infinite spiritual beings having temporary human experiences. Even the version of you that's going to be, I'm making $100,000 a year, eventually you're going to move beyond that. And that will be your version now of this version. Like, that's the old version of me. I know now I can make $200,000 a year. You see the analogy here? So you have to first off become aware of what the story is that you're telling yourself, and you have to take complete, utter responsibility for it. Even if someone did it to you. You know, I had a painful past growing up, but that led me to waking up. I changed my story. You change the meaning of the story you give yourself. People knocked you down, rejected you. The first girl you ever asked out rejected you. What did you do with that story? Change the story. Don't tell yourself a lie like, oh, that girl really loved me, blah, blah. No. Instead, see it as a new meaning. That happened so that I could love myself more. Now I feel more loving of myself. That job that you got, the people that fired you from that job, that boss that fired you, it wasn't a job you really cared about. You changed the meaning. You're like, now I can find a job I am passionate about. Change the meaning that you give these core things. What you'll notice is that there's like, I'd say 5 or 10 main things that happened in your past, memories that developed your story and your identity. And when you become aware of those, you can then change the meanings. Simply by being aware of it. You become aware of it, you can then change the meaning. It's just I was unaware, so you were experiencing it over and over and over again, and your reality was a reflection of how you think, feel, and act. Now, the next step is actually really simple. Normally, we're going to tell ourselves a story. Well, in order to go from 50,000 to 100,000, I got to do all these things. I got to make it really hard, make it very resistant. The key is to just be. Give yourself permission to be this version of you. To find other people that are that way, that are making that kind of money, to be in their energy field, to give yourself permission to be the kind of person that is this version of you. What are the habits of that version of you? What are the actions of that version of you? How does that version of you walk? How does that version of you talk? Pay attention, use your imagination to bridge these two realities and simply give yourself permission to be this version of you. And when you give yourself permission to be this version of you, what will end up happening is you start to wire in that vibrational resonance and it becomes more of who you are. And then what will happen is other people outside of you will begin to then respond to you depending on that way that you are showing up in the world. So if you want other people to view you as more confident, you must first off be confident with yourself. If you want other people to help you to love you more, you must first love yourself and even love other people. People will only perceive you that which you are embodying. Now, the thing that I encourage you to look at is how you are being. Understand the level of identity here. You do things because it's who you are. You see the difference of that? So, for example, huge shift for me was I used to see myself as working a 9-to-5 job that I hated. I said, you know what? I'm just going to be a full-time YouTuber before I even have the outer reflection of being a full-time YouTuber. I made video every single day. I made a video every single day for a month. Since now, it's been almost 3 years. But initially, that's what I did. And I wasn't making a daily video so I could get more YouTube subscribers so that I could leave my job. I was making a daily video because I was being who I really am. I identified it. I used my imagination. I was able to wire it in. And then by being that version of me, I was able to then embody it, and then eventually my outer reality reflected it. But I first off had to be in that vibration. I had to understand that that's who I'm not doing it. Most people do things because it gets them somewhere else. The key is to do things for the sake of doing it because it's at the level of who you are. It's at your vibrational core. My vibrational core is expressing these videos. I get into such a flow state that it's very easy for me to do this. You'll say, how do you do videos every single day? Well, it's who I am. I don't know how to explain it. When you get to the level of being, when you create from the being level, it's much more powerful than creating from the doing level. Being, it's like being present to the moment, enjoying the process, doing what you're passionate about. That will put you in the being state. So what you do is you focus on the identity of that version of you and you focus on wiring it in. And then this third step is simply this. Repetition. Get those reps in. The more consistent you do it, the easier it becomes. The more consistently you do this, the more you wire in this new identity. This identity has simply had a repetition of affirmations, a repetition of thinking, a repetition of feeling, a repetition of acting that has kept that identity in lock. It is the path of least resistance. Neurons in the brain that fire together, wire together. You have fired the neurons in the brain that say, I am this type of person, I feel this way, and I act this way over and over again. And what you must simply do is make the choice to be this version of you with repetition. Stop telling yourself a story that it has to be forever, it has to take forever. It doesn't have to. It can be as simple as you make it. And the key is just giving yourself permission to be that version of you. If you be, act, feel as that version of you, eventually your outer reality will be in a change. But the key to this, the caveat, is you cannot need the outer reality to change first before you really give yourself permission to be it. If you say, oh, I have to paint every single day, then have an art gallery studio, then I can be an artist, then you're going about it backwards. You are the artist. And because you are the artist, you naturally think, feel, and act similar to being an artist. I did that with YouTube. I think, felt, and acted as a YouTuber, knowing that's who I am, and then eventually the outer reality changed and people started to subscribe to the channel, and now it's grown to where it is. So, just to recap this, become aware of your old identity, the old story you tell yourself. It's an illusion. This is also an illusion, by the way. But this version of you, with that story you tell yourself, with the way that you show up in the world, they become aware of that self-image, and then what you do is you're aware of it, you decide to let it go. It served you. It served you to this point to where you now watch this video and you're aware of your self-image. It served you. Change the meaning of those core experiences in the past. Parents divorced, you thought you weren't worthy. Parents divorced so that you could have 2 different birthday presents. Okay? Change the meaning you gave things. You give a negative meaning, my parents divorced, it means I'm not worthy, I probably caused it. That's what we give it as a kid. But instead you realize you could change the meaning of it. Your parents divorced so you could have 2 birthdays. Okay? You don't just have 1 birthday over here. You got this birthday over here. So it's all the way that you look at it. If you change these meanings, you then change the emotional response that you have for it that's keeping you within a certain bandwidth of information with a reality that is equal to how you think, feel, and act. Start to give yourself permission to feel worthy and know that the more you do that, the more you change these old meanings, is the more you change your life. So then be that version of you. Give yourself permission to be in the vibration of how you prefer to be. Understand you do things because it's who you are, not because it gets you anywhere else. I simply wired in and was a full-time YouTuber before I was a full-time YouTuber. And now I'm getting ready to go to the next level where I'm going to start doing live events and be in front of a large number of people in person rather than just online. Well, guess what? I'm going to be doing the same thing. I'm going to be being that version of me, wiring it in, knowing that my outer reality will eventually begin to reflect that. And then repetition, wire it in. Powerful way to wire it in is to do it in the 24 hours you have in a day. Do something every single day that wires it in. For me, that's making a video a day. For you, it could be writing. It could be doing a podcast every day. It could be you doing something you're passionate about every single day, 24 hours. Also, I have techniques. I share more in that podcast episode if you want to learn more about the repetition side of it. That's in the top of the description box. It'll show you how to, before you go to bed, there's different ways of repetition, wiring this in, this level of identity. Nonetheless, these is out of all the content I teach on YouTube, I believe that this is the most powerful information that I share. And if you learn this, then your life will change. It's that simple. So it has to do with identity shifting, understanding who you are, at a higher level. I mean, you're an infinite spiritual being, but you can play small, you can play big. I'm showing you how to play big, and that's what you learned in this video. So do this, apply this, and watch how your life begins to change. This video, I'm gonna share with you 3 deep ideas that will raise your vibration and transform your life once they begin to really absorb, and they're ideas that changed my whole entire life. So I'm gonna share that with you in this video. When we go around living in this dream, believing that we are this 3D physical body, that this is all that we are, and we identify so much with it because we grow up identifying with our body. We grow up identifying with the senses, with what we can taste, touch, smell, hear, and what we can see. These are things that we grow up believing that is a part of us. Then what happens is we may compare ourselves and believe that we're not good enough. We may have certain things that happen, and when these things happen, we give it certain meanings, and then those meanings remain on autopilot most of our life. If somebody bullied you when you were a kid, you may go around your whole entire life having certain people bully you because there's a certain type of meaning that says that this is what I'm worthy of, this is who I am. And when we talk about transformation, it's about understanding identification. I would say one of the most powerful ideas I've ever come to understand is identification and disidentification. So it's identifying with the ego, which is what we learn how to do growing up, and then learning how to disidentify with everything we thought we were. To disidentify with our past of what happened, thinking that that's what makes us who we are now. Disidentifying with the things that other people think about us, knowing that we don't have to internalize it. You see, when we disidentify, we then start to see that a lot of it it's all an illusion anyways. The self-concept of who we think we are is self-projected, but we are eternal spiritual beings dreaming that we are these 3D physical avatar bodies. This is what quantum physics shows. This is what when you start doing meditation, you begin to tap into, because you see that you can observe your thoughts, you see that you can observe the reactions, and then you see that if you observe it, you are no longer that which you thought you were your whole entire life. because you then put it into like this neutral state. Now, the three concepts I'll be sharing with you today are all through, each idea in of itself can help you to transform to a higher level of consciousness and to understand more of who you are. And the one I just shared with identification, that in of itself is a transformation. Because when you learn how to disidentify with your thoughts, disidentify with the content of what's happening in reality, it doesn't have so much power over you. That's when transformation can really begin to happen. Now, the first idea is something that I want to share with you that changed my life when I learned it. I learned about it in 2012, 2013. I started to become aware of something that is called agreement. Everything in our reality is there, that we perceive to be true, is there because of agreement, whether that be collective agreement or individual agreement. Now, let's look at it from a collective point of view. Collective agreement. Money has no power other than the agreement we have about what these green pieces of paper in the United States or whatever country you're from, the meaning we give, the joint agreement that we give about what this piece of paper means is the only reason it has power. It's because there's a mass level agreement there. Now, when we talk about agreement, that's at a mass level. We have agreed at certain levels to have the certain political system that we have in place. We've agreed to it as a collective consciousness. We've agreed that in this reality we're going to play out certain situations. We agreed to this at a collective level. And then at an individual level, things only affect us if at a certain level we agree and identify with what someone says about us. So when we were younger, if something happened to us, for example, somebody called us a name, and we started to identify with that. The only way that could really have power over us is if at a certain level we agreed that could have power over us. We agreed that were true. And then we internalize it, and that becomes a part of who we are. Now, we've also agreed to many things that our parents may have agreed to. Our parents may have had many beliefs about the way money looks or the way money works in reality. They may have had beliefs about how relationships should work. They may have had many different types of beliefs. And a lot of times what happens is we, growing up, absorb their beliefs or their agreements, and then we live out those agreements over and over and over again. But you see, by becoming aware of the agreements you've currently made, which at a certain level is the beliefs, you can then transform your life. But those beliefs are only having power over you if you agree that is true. If you agree that is a truth about reality, that money doesn't grow on trees, or that people can treat you a certain way. You see, it's all based on agreement. All reality is based on agreement. We agree to certain things. And because we agree to it, whether it's individually or collectively, that then becomes reality. If somebody came up to you and said, "I hate that orange shirt you're wearing, Aaron, it's so ugly," if I didn't agree that I was even wearing an orange shirt, then I wouldn't be affected. Now, if somebody came up to me and said, "Aaron, your green shirt is ugly," I may not agree that it's an ugly shirt, even though they're right, it is green. You see what I mean? I can choose what I agree with. And most people's agreements are completely on autopilot. They agree with what other people tell them. They agree and they just assume whatever they're told is truth. The true part of reality is understanding that we can move into more of experiencing reality for ourselves. When I look at someone like Sadhguru, who's an enlightened guru from India, one of the most popular enlightened people in the world. He's got over 3 million YouTube subscribers, and he puts out a lot of videos, or his company does, or whatever you call it. And one thing I've heard him say a lot about enlightenment is when he goes into the present moment, when he's trying something, he acts as if he's doing it for the first time. He experiences it fresh, without the past. And he experiences it from a fresh point of view, which means there's no agreements about what has to happen. There's no certain expectation. It's just he is so present, so fully in the moment. And he's void of any agreements of the way people think he should be, has to be, or any of those things. He's living in his own state of presence. So when it comes to this first idea that can raise your vibration, it's understanding that anything of the lower vibrations, whether that's shame, fear, guilt, I'll go ahead and put the chart right here, shame, fear, guilt, anger, neutrality, any of these lower vibrational emotions under neutrality is there because at a certain point of our past, we agreed to something that happened to us, we agreed to a certain meaning, and therefore we continue to live those experiences over and over and over again. You see, but when we see those agreements as something that we agree to, we're taking responsibility for it because we're saying, yes, maybe a parent gave it to you, but you still, at some level, agreed that that's the way reality works. That's when you can gain your power back because you have to take responsibility for it. Even if you realize that you made that level, you agreed to it unconsciously or at such a young age that how could you have known? The key is taking responsibility for it and realizing that it is an outdated agreement. You may have had an old agreement that you weren't worthy, that you are awkward, that you are shy, whatever it is. You can let go of these labels. You can disidentify and understand that the more you let go and you become aware of these agreements is the more your life begins to change. So this is a powerful transformation when you become aware of it because then you look around, you see everything, and it starts to become, reality becomes more fun and flexible because then you're like, what can I not agree with anymore that I don't prefer to agree with? We just agree to certain things, and therefore that becomes our reality. Now, the second idea is also a very powerful idea that changed my life. It has to do with understanding permission. Giving yourself permission to be yourself and giving yourself permission to be the way that you prefer. Now, I became aware of this as I realized that me doing what I do full time, the most powerful thing wasn't just me making daily YouTube videos because it allowed me to grow as far as like the channel growth to where I could quit my full-time job. It's because it changed my identity. And then as I had changed my identity, I then started to give myself more permission to just be myself. It's like I started to make videos and I was kind of like meager to put out videos like, will people like what I say? Will people like what I say? And then I just kept doing it. I was like, well, I'll just keep putting it out. I'll just keep putting it out. And then eventually it started to grow. And then eventually I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to give myself permission to express myself. I'm just going to give my permission to be this way. And by giving myself permission, I started to feel so expansive. And that's when things really took off. But another thing that changed it is what I did is I wired in a new identity and just gave myself permission to be that identity before that even was my outer reflection. So it was like I said to myself, what if I acted as a full-time YouTuber before I am a full-time YouTuber? So that's what I did. I made videos every single day, even when I had a full-time job. I gave myself permission, and by giving yourself permission, you then start to embody that energy. There was a movie I used to watch, or not used to watch, but it is a movie I've seen a couple times. It's a documentary. It's called Kumari. It's about a guy that pretends to be an enlightened guru, and he goes to Arizona. And he has all these people that follow him, and he's really some guy from New York who went to college and like found out that he believed that a lot of these gurus, the only thing that really resonated with him is when these gurus told other people like the power's within you, the power's within you, rather than people giving their power away to gurus or these figures. So what he did is he made himself look, he grew out his hair, grew out a long beard, he looked and he sounded like an actual guru guy from India. So then what he does is he gets all these followers, and at the end, they all fall in love with him, they think he's amazing. He starts to actually embody a very high vibrational energy, you can see it. He even talks about it as he's acting as if in a way. And what happens is that then these people's lives start to transform, and all he's doing is telling them the power's within you, the power's within you. This is an illusion. He tells them the whole time, this is an illusion, this is an illusion. And literally it's an illusion because at the end of the movie, he reveals to them, I'm just some guy from New York. I'm 30, like whatever years old, however old he is, and this has all been just to show you that the power's within yourself. And most of them were really excited for that. Some of them weren't so happy because they felt like they were misled or whatever. But the idea is that the power's within them. But by him giving himself permission to be that way, he started to take on a completely new energy field. So for me, what that made me aware of is that there's these different frequencies, these different ways that we are in reality. And when we start to embody, he started to embody like a divine essence. And as he embodied that divine essence, it was like these people just were started to find healing within themselves. You see, but here's the truth. That all is an illusion anyways. This whole reality that we think to be so real and is so solid is actually much more flexible than we know. And the more we focus on how flexible it can be, is the more flexible it becomes. But when will you give yourself permission to be your real self? You see, some people think that they can only give themselves permission to be themselves when they're drinking. But what is it? It's a certain state of being they feel, and then they just give themselves permission. You ever see shy people that then they drink and they're really loud? They just subconsciously give themselves permission to be less filtered. So do we need alcohol to give ourselves permission? No. We just need to realize we have certain filters on. Yes, maybe being an introvert is a thing, but I think a lot of times, a lot of people that think they're shy, it's just because they at a certain point in their past may have said something may have happened, and they said, nope, I got to stay in this box. It's safe. Not always, but sometimes. And if you just give yourself permission to be yourself, you'll find that so much more happens. I was also afraid to, I talk about some pretty esoteric stuff on my YouTube channel. And I'm aware that it's esoteric stuff. Like, I completely know that. I've been wanting to speak about it since like 2012. But what I did is I said, okay, I'm going to make law of attraction videos. I'm going to make practical personal development videos, neuroscience videos. I have over 1,000 videos on the channel now. This is how I'm going to make these videos. And then what I decided is eventually I was like, I'm just going to give myself permission to make these very esoteric videos. Even though some people may not resonate with it, it's authentic for me. So I remember it was like I also had this strong, like, what will people think about me? What will people think about me? This is like back in November of last year. And what I did is I said, you know what? I saw it for what I saw it as an illusion. Who cares? I don't care if people judge me. I want to express myself. And maybe that includes me making a video on star seeds, on being multidimensional, on the work of the law of one, on sharing information on Bashar, or whatever it is. It's authentic for me. And I want to do that. And I did that. And the funny thing is yes, some people were turned off and were like, oh, that's too weird for me. You stick to your law of attraction videos. Some people, though, and many people were extremely excited, and it brought in a whole new wave into my channel. Like a huge exponential bump after I started to just be myself. I just gave myself permission. That's what I did. And maybe you've seen it in my energy. Maybe you've noticed that in a lot of my newer videos from like this last 4 or 5 months, it's been a lot more loose. It's been a lot more fun. I've been walking around. I've been doing more casual videos because I want to do them. That's really the only reason. I just wanted to make videos that I was excited to make, and I gave myself permission to do so. But most of us walk around like, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I give myself permission? You can write the rules of your own reality. I was talking to someone the other day about this because one of my buddies who has a YouTube channel, his name's Owen, and he mentioned me in one of his videos at one of his talks at one of his seminars, and he talked about how I am at restaurants. And when I go to a restaurant, I'm very definite about what I want. I'm very definite even about where I sit. Victor knows this. Victor Odo, many of you guys know. When we go into a restaurant, if I want to sit, like the other day we went to this place in New York, in True Food Kitchen in Newport. Very good place, very good food. We're going to sit down, and I'm like, can we sit, like, there's all these places to sit. I'm like, can we get a booth, like, right over there? And she starts to walk us over there. And then what happens is she tries to put us in a table with all of these big groups of people where it's like this small little 2 table. Victor and I eat a lot of food. We get like a lot of entrees and stuff because we do intermittent fasting. So yeah, I knew it wasn't all going to fit on the table, but I have no problem giving myself permission to be like, actually, can we sit over here? Can we sit actually at this table right over here? Now, it could seem like a control thing, but at the same time, I just give myself permission to say, we'd rather eat at this big table that's kind of off to the side away from all the busyness of all these other people. So whatever perception we have of it, the idea is we can agree and we can give ourselves permission to state and express what we want. Back in the day, I may have been afraid to do that. I'm like, well, I'll just give them whatever they give us, and we'll go sit over there in this small little table in between all these 2 big groups of people. like right next to them, where we can hear each other's conversation. No, I just give ourselves permission to do it. So the idea is give yourself permission to just be. There's also this understanding of be, do, and have. Many times we think we must first do something, then we can have it, then we can finally be it. The truth is, when you can just be it, that's when your life will begin to transform. That Kumari guy, he was just being himself. He was just, well, not even himself. He was just being in a high vibe. He was just being this character he was playing, which I guess you could say wasn't himself, but then he began to embody it, and he began to literally become it. He started to feel differently, and these people started to feel this off of him, and all of this stuff. Just be. If you go straight to being, your life changes. If I said to myself, first I must do daily videos, then I can eventually have more and more of a following, and then eventually I can be a full-time YouTuber. I said, no, I'm just going to be a full-time YouTuber. What would a full-time YouTuber do? But I'm going to be that. I'm going to see it as the difference is being includes a level of presence. I want to say it includes a part of identity, but not even really, because being, that's like, then you're emphasizing some ego. You're just being. You're just being free. You're just open. You're loose. When I do these videos, I'm just being. I'm allowing this information to flow through. A lot of people say, Aaron, where do you get your videos? Where do you get your video topics? And where do you get all this information? I just write down a title and I get into a flow state and the information comes through. So, yes, I've read some books in the past. And yes, I do research. But a lot of it is just information coming through. I wouldn't be able to make daily videos for 3 years in a row if it weren't for me getting open to this flow state. The power's in the flow state. Now, the third thing that I want to share with you that I think can change your life is understanding what I call the shift within. Every single thing on the outside is a reflection of the inside, and it's showing you something about yourself. Even the stuff that you don't want to look at. It's showing you something about yourself, whether it's you learning how to let go a little bit more, whether it's you healing your vision for something. You see, this is when I started learning about Ho'oponopono, which many of you may have heard. One of the most powerful meditations I've made recently is just an easy one that you can listen to in the background and think of it, say it over and over again. It'll change your energetic field. Ho'oponopono has to do with understanding that you say these 4 words. You say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. What you're sorry for is you're sorry for any tainted vision that you have of someone else. So for example, this is a process for healing. Anytime, this is what Dr. Len realized from in Hawaii about this process. What he did is, this is a scientific study, there were 50 people that were in a mental ward. What he did is he healed his vision of them. He looked over their cases, never actually even met them. He did Ho'oponopono, and they all healed. Think about that. He never even talked to them, which then poses the question, what is reality? Because he healed his vision of them, and then they healed in our joint reality that we're in. What if the problem you have with your parents or with other family members or with friends, what if all of those problems were simply because you believed there was a problem there? And because you were resisting them just being how they are? What if what you think inside is what you think on the outside? So for example, you may have had a certain level of past with someone in your family that's negative. So you tell yourself a story that this person is negative, and then that person continues to act out that expectation every time you're around them. But what if instead you healed your vision of them? So when you say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you, I'm sorry for the vision that you aren't whole and complete. I'm sorry for the vision of how you are. Please forgive me for thinking of you that way. Thank you, I love you. You see, everything on the outside is a reflection of the inside. It's just about trusting and going within to see, what can I heal within myself? Because if I heal within myself, I know that then my outer reality will change. If you are having problems with someone in your life, realize the resistance and the way that you are internally thinking about them on the outside, the way you internally think about them on the inside, may be what causes the resistance of different things to happen that reflect that back to you. But if instead you heal within your vision of them, You may find that then on the outside, that begins to change. I've done this in my own life, and it does work. And I'm still working through it now, to be honest with you. There's certain people in my family, there's certain people that I know that I'm still working on this. I'm using Ho'oponopono, but it does work. I've seen amazing things happen. Some of the things that have happened are things I never thought would happen in my life, that I would see in certain other people. But I dropped a story. I started to see them as whole and complete. I started to think about them differently. And then in my reality, they changed. So everything on the outside is just a reflection of the inside. You see, when you absorb this idea, you then start to say to yourself, how can I heal my vision of something else? Then this gets into a very deep level of reality. I'll tell you that right now. Because then you see that all the negative things in our life that we don't want to take responsibility for, we must take responsibility for to really change it. Because if it's out there, it means at some level, us perceiving of it is in here. Even if it's just for us to heal our vision of it, of seeing it less than whole and complete. Many people might see the president in a certain way. But at the same time, by emphasizing that, what we would be saying, I'm sorry, please forgive me, is I'm sorry for seeing you less than the divine being that you are. Please forgive me for doing that. And as ridiculous as this may sound to a lot of people, when we realize that we are all connected, that's when healing begins to start. And the more that we hold in emotional charges to someone not being that way, is in our reality, that person will appear to be that way. I believe that at a certain level, if we were to do a mass level of Ho'oponopono on different people in reality, it may have a very, very powerful effect, because then we're literally going to be shifting our reality. But it's the shift within that counts. So these are the 3 ideas that I think can change our whole entire life when we begin to absorb into it. Realize the first thing, everything in reality is based on agreement. You can let go of your old agreements. That will transform your life. Secondly, give yourself permission to be the way you want to be. You don't need alcohol. You can just be yourself. Be free. Have fun. And then thirdly, shift within. Realize that everything on the outside is a reflection of on the inside. So when you heal on the inside, everything on the outside begins to change anyways. This video right here, this is one of the most powerful videos that I made, and I highly recommend that you watch it because it'll help you with what you learned in this video. This episode, I'm going to show you the 6 steps that you can use to completely transform your life in 2022. I'm sure you've noticed 2021 has been